can I just point out that, as listeners will notice, you're not laying claim to any particular book. Surely the greatest crime for a ghostwriter is to be doing interviews with the New York Times about the process of ghostwriting a book.
Yeah, it's not an interview though; it's a full-scale essay. So I'm pretty sure that that Harry saw it before it went to the. I don't know, but I would very much. There must be an enormous amount of NDA material that Mr. Moehringer has signed. So I'd be very surprised if Harry hasn't given permission. You basically, a ghost remains silent until given permission to speak. Apart from obviously in the interview process.
So you're saying Harry might have condoned this revelation. That in itself is quite interesting. What do you make, though, of the scene that Moehringer paints? Have you had similar arguments with people you've ghostwritten for? And what would be the purpose in trying to dissuade someone from telling a story?
No, my whole philosophy is slightly different. I mean, first of all, Mr. Moehringer has written an absolutely brilliant book. So in the end, his system obviously works really well. But he does have a different system to most ghostwriters because he believes, I think he said that you have to have a big mouth as a ghostwriter. And I would say the opposite. What you have to do is be very, very quiet and listen to them, coax the material out of them. You then write what you think is the best version of them and give it back to them. And if they then have serious issues with anything that you've either put in or left out, you would explain to them why you put it in or why you've left it out. You wouldn't get into an argument at any stage because you certainly don't. I mean, Harry is an extremely empowered young man, so I'm quite sure he can stand up for himself very easily. But you wouldn't want them to feel at all inhibited in talking to you about anything. So if they really, really want something in, it's their book. You know, you're writing the book that they would if they could.
I was going to say not to be demeaning to your craft, but you know, as a ghostwriter, you are employed by that person, aren't you?
Oh, absolutely. But you are employed to use your best judgment and to advise accordingly. I mean, I think it was just one little line that Prince Harry wanted in, as he wanted to get the last word in some thing where somebody had said something terrible about his mother in order to try to rile him during an exercise.
Yeah, about the Queen, I think it was. Yeah.
No, it's about Diana.
Oh, is it?
Which was absolutely bound to get him riled. I mean, they would absolutely know that they would get him going with that. And Mr. Moehringer just didn't think that it was a snappy enough retort. And what was good about the story, what was interesting about that anecdote, was the way they had wound him up and the way they treated him. And so he I think he didn't think that the answer was quite as witty as Prince Harry hoped it was, and so he persuaded him to leave it out. Normally you wouldn't get into a fight, but it was, apparently it was 2 a.m. in the morning for one or other of them. I think Mr. Moehringer he seems to be quite sensitive. Most ghostwriters are pretty thick-skinned and will quite, happily take a bit of a battering from the author without getting too worried.
Isn't the other side of this the fact that as readers, we expect a memoir to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? But actually, as Moehringer, I think, wrote in his piece, memoir is a story carved from your life, so you don't need to include everything. You're actually in the business of telling a story. Do you agree with him?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you don't want all the boring bits. Can you imagine? I mean,
no.
In Prince Harry's life, if he put every single detail, it would have been like a 5,000-page book. You've got to distill it down and take out stuff that is boring or uninteresting or doesn't forward the story at all. You've got to find the narrative arc and stick to it as much as possible, which he does absolutely brilliantly in the book. I mean, have you read it?
No.
Oh, it's worth it, honestly. I mean, it's a really, really well-crafted book. It's a phenomenal love story. It's an amazing insight into his problems with his coming to terms with his mother's death, and all the things that the media pulled out of it as terrible. He's quite sweet about his father, really. I mean, he paints him as a rather lovable old chap who just didn't really get the hang of fathering a being a single father.
Yeah, I think I like reading memoirs about people I'm really fascinated by, and this one didn't tick that box particularly for me.
Give it a go, Mariella. It's worth a
um,
go.
just finally,
The first couple of pages are slightly off-putting, but after that, it really takes off. I just loved it.